And the MCU is trashed right now. I guess the M stands for mess. Let's talk about it. What's up, universe, and welcome back to the web's first must-see comic and nerd culture show. Welcome to Comic Universe, guys. I'm one of your hosts, as always, CDubbs. And as you guys can see, I'm riding solo on this video. And guys, the MCU. We're talking the MCU here today. Now, the Russos have officially lifted the ban on their movie. So if you have not seen Avengers End, if you have not seen the new trailer to Spider-Man Far From Home, and if you have not seen any of the movies in the MCU over the past 11 years, 22 films, you need to go do so before you see this, because we are talking spoilers, anything that comes to mind, everything and anything is free game in this video, guys. So we are now going to talk about the mess that is the MCU moving forward. Now, by the mess, I mean that in a term of endearment. I actually mean it with inside the actual film, not necessarily the films themselves. Now, I am a huge fan, just want to put it out there so I don't need all the Twitter fingers saying, "You're calling the MCU a mess." Yes, it is a complete and utter mess as of right this moment. And we're just going to talk about some of the problems that we have moving forward. So first and foremost, the snap. The snap from Infinity War all the way through the two, which happened with inside Avengers Endgame, clearly have caused some devastation. Let's just take a moment and reflect what the world would be like if 50% of the population, not just the population, 50% of all life in general just up and disappeared. That means 50% of the plants, 50% of the animals, and yes, the Russos have said, Kevin Feige has said, it affected all life in the universe. So therefore, we're talking half the crops of the world just up and vanishing, and even with half the people around to just eat those, still, that's going to cause a lot of starving people. Not to mention all the people that are skilled upon trades and knowledge, okay, in various different fields, from medical to, everything, even just truck drivers, disappearing from being able to bring food to the stores so that you and I can actually go to the store and get it. It's said that on the average, each individual grocery store has about 3 days worth of food. After that, we start talking about spoils, okay, and, without new, food coming in, we're going to see a lot of issues coming up. Now, the MCU did touch upon some of these issues. We saw trash being built up. We saw a lot of people within Cap's support group dealing with a lot of drama and trauma and traumatic issues of, loss of loved ones and friends, and just dealing with the snap in general. And, coming to the realization that, there are forces of nature out there greater than ourselves. Okay, all kinds of problems came from this. Now, we didn't touch too much on it, and I hope moving forward in the MCU that we do. Okay, but this alone is going to cause a lot of post-traumatic stress, and who knows what other, mental health issues they're going to cause. Not to mention the buildup of all the trash, the famine, the diseases that could come from all of that as well. So, in moving forward into the MCU, things could get, we could start to see some of that. Now, after the events of just some of the events with inside of Endgame, okay, with the actual snap to return 50%, the 50% that was gone came back. Now, it's all coming back, and we're just talking in the world. Now, we already have realized that this happened all over the entire universe, okay? And like Captain Marvel said, not everywhere had the Avengers to help deal with the problems of that snap. So, we're just going to focus here in our particular universe as well, mostly here on Earth. So, moving forward, we also now have 50% of that life coming back, okay? And now, within that 5 years of any sort of resemblance of hope and realization of having to deal with 50% of this, okay, is now another hungry batch of people coming in, okay, and thirsty batch coming in to try and obtain and eat and all of this and trying to go back into their own lives. How many people moved on? How many people went ahead and got remarried or had additional children or bought additional homes or moved? Okay, how many people are displaced and are now homeless? Because if, you were a single dude or whatever, you lived your own life and all of a sudden you disappeared, okay, you come back, now you don't have a home. How does the government deal with something like that? Now, these are sure on things we may not get ever any answer within the MCU, but these are definitely topics that we could actually see affecting the world, okay, and affecting our heroes and villains moving forward. So again, this is just something absolutely insane to try to wrap your head around. Now, more cinematic, if you will. Okay, we had Captain America, okay, with the sole responsibility to go back in time and put back these gems, these stones, the Infinity Stones, back in place where they needed to be, okay, in order not to, as they put it, branch off into other timelines and mess up those particular timelines, as stated by the Ancient One, okay, when she gave, Hulk the actual time stone, that these will branch off and it'll leave these worlds, these universes, this timeline unprotected by the unseen forces of evil, essentially, ranging from anything from Dormammu, okay, to Doctor Doom. Who knows what exactly we are talking about. It's a vast world out there. Now, also, just talking about that in on itself. First and foremost, how did the Soul Stone get back to where it needed to be? Okay, how did this event play out with Captain America? Captain America showing back up and seeing the Red Skull, and the Red Skull seeing him. Would he be so obliged to assist him and help him on his journeys? I think not. Okay, this is a huge answer, or a huge problem to a dilemma, okay, that I hope that to some degree we get some sort of closure on, because that's just a huge plot hole, okay? And I understand that a soul for a soul, but if you're going back to that exact moment in time, that exact moment that the stone is given and it's put back, that should, in theory, even though they said it didn't, and it wouldn't, okay, should give that person who sacrificed their life, their soul essentially back. Like, we're talking the exact moment, okay, before she jumped off and died, right? Because that's the only way she would have gotten it. So, you see what I'm saying? There's some tomfoolery there that we are not getting the answers to, okay, for better or for worse. Now, I'd like to think, especially in this film, some of these plot holes and intentional issues, okay, are intentional, okay, because again, without having a end credit scene to help guide us into the future and the next phase of the MCU, these plot holes kind of get us to talking and get us to thinking about what could be, and getting us to theorize, like we're doing here on this video universe, that, we start to see hopefully some glimpse of the bigger picture. Now, again, this whole Red Skull thing could be one of those things. Okay, another thing, okay, with him staying back in time and staying with Peggy Carter, messes up, again, some timeline issues that just don't make sense. And yes, I know they've said that, yes, that means there was two Captain Americas that existed simultaneously, one that continued on with the Avengers, so forth and so on, and then one that ended up living with Peggy Carter. But it was already stated that Peggy Carter had moved on and actually got married and had children. Okay, so without this happening, he is essentially messing up those people's lives. That's not something Captain America would have done. Okay, so again, and knowing that Kang the Conqueror has issues in time, okay, with time travel, and has big issues with the Avengers and obviously the Fantastic Four, but most of all, a lot of times Captain America in general. Now, with some small tweaks and changes to the character and his hatred towards Captain America, it's easy to see that this event could have caused that, and fingers crossed, maybe we'll get Kang the Conqueror as our next big bad moving forward. Okay, someone who just is a master of all time and space, if you will. So it's definitely something that you can see affecting, and the problem is, the further into the the rabbit hole you go of time travel, the more crazy and convoluted it can get. So here's to hoping that we don't get something that just starts to fall apart or starts to disassemble, no pun intended, the MCU as we know it. Now, also moving forward, we have now been told that these snaps, okay, have essentially caused ripples or rips inside of not just time, as it did, but space. Now that we have the introduction of multiverse. Okay, now this is a huge thing. Okay, letting us know that Mysterio's from Earth, but not this Earth, from another Earth, and these elementals. How does Spider-Man deal with this? Okay, moving forward. This is absolutely crazy, big, a huge problem. Okay, and of course, everyone first thing is, oh, Miles Morales. Okay, let's just pump the brakes for a second. We still have to deal with our Peter Parker, our Spider-Man, before we start getting to Miles Morales. And not to mention, that's a whole nother timeline, and it's a whole nother, like, production company with Sony. And those are issues in unto itself that the big wigs and the suits and ties and Kevin Feige are going to have to deal with to try to happen. Now, what if also this multiverse is a way of Sony's deal working out a little further to where maybe someday Venom could actually be a part of our Peter Parker, Tom Holland's, life, or seeing any of those characters correspond, or any of MCU's characters. And I know, one moment they're like, yeah, there's maybe a possibility, the next moment it'll never happen, the next moment maybe there's a possibility. But at the end of the day, that Sony would love nothing more than to actually siphon off as much of this billion-dollar company they can. Okay, they got nothing else going for them. So, and that means no disrespect. Sony is the king when it comes to video games, in my opinion. And maybe, one of the big, awesome guys out there in the world of tech in terms of, home theater and computers and whatnot. But when it comes to their movies, they're not, batting 1,000. Okay, so definitely they would love to siphon off as much of the MCU as they can. Okay, and learn from, Marvel Studios and Disney as they can. And I'm sure this may lead into that to some degree. Okay, but again, now we have multiverse. We have fractures and breaks in time and timelines and distortions and people that technically should be back. Okay, just the MCU is just this big hodgepodge of a mess moving forward. And moving into the realm of the TV series for their streaming service, now that Bucky, is, Falcon is the new Cap, if you will. He's now Falcon Cap. Okay, does that mean Bucky never is going to get it? Did that mean maybe Bucky in a different timeline already was? Okay, where did Cap get the next shield? Okay, how is Cap so old? Even if he had gone back to his timeline, just from the super soldier serum alone, he would not be as old as he was when he came back. Again, these could all just be coincidences and just mismarks, okay, from the Russo brothers and from the MCU in general. But generally speaking, we don't get those big of misfires, okay, and mistakes out of the MCU. So think about that for a moment. Okay, not to mention, how did he just come back? Okay, did he come back through time with the shield? Did he grow old and that's the current, Cap from that timeline? That's probably what they're going to go with. Okay, but still, things don't completely add up. Okay, and again, I just don't see how that Soul Stone would have gone back, okay, with, Red Skull being there. Not to mention, with the Red Skull being stuck there on that planet, okay, and being the keeper of the Soul Stone, and without the Soul Stone being there, is he still stuck there? Okay, would it not have been a good idea for maybe him to go down and investigate Black Widow and find the Pym particles and find his way back through time? Okay, maybe teams up with Loki somewhere down the line. Okay, these are huge things. Okay, and the fact that Loki, basically disappeared from the first film. Okay, did the events of Thor 2, The Dark World, even happen? Okay, without Loki's involvement. Okay, where does that all start to mesh together? Okay, if he just disappeared. Now I get it, he's disappearing, and that's probably going to be the adventures we get with the Disney streaming service. Okay, and maybe that will end right back where this started. Okay, all in all, fixing the problem. But as of now, that's a huge problem. Gamora not being a part of the Guardians of the Galaxy moving forward. Sure, she still technically exists within this timeline, okay, but with taking her from the past and not putting her back in the past, would that not mess up the events moving forward, okay, with inside Guardians of the Galaxy? Would the Guardians of the Galaxy not exist? How did they deal with the events of, Peter's father, okay, with dealing with ego, without Gamora a part of that? Okay, or to help him realize the problems. I don't know. These are all answers that the MCU and the mess that the MCU has now created by messing with time travel. Now, most of these, I'm sure a lot of you guys have already thought of. But how crazy is it to think, okay, that this wonderful, streamlined for the most part, streamlined MCU, that everything it's done was intentional to move forward within a progression of a story leading to the next story, next movie, if you will, right? Now to have everything just kind of all over the place is a really scary, as a fan, and dark situation to be in. We're so used to being carried along and having these little trinkets to help us in between these films, okay? And after Spider-Man, things just look like they're just going to get a lot crazier, guys. So this is just some of the mess that we are dealing with in the MCU, guys. I'm sure I missed a few. So go ahead in the comments below. Let's talk about some of the other plot holes and issues for many of these different films that we're looking at moving forward within the MCU, guys. You know, we still have, you know, Dormammu out there and all these other big bads that could definitely come and take advantage of this situation. Okay, guys, so let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to Hulk smash the hell out of that like button. Smash it like you mean it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if this is the first time you're coming across one of our videos, guys, we do all kinds of things from reviews to just discussions like this. Guys, go ahead and subscribe so you know every time we drop a video. Click that notification bell so you become a part of the notification squad. And guys, until next time, I'm CDubbs, and I'll see you in the universe. Peace.